Okay, so as I like to say with these things, as long as everything is working the way that it should be working, we are now live. So hello and welcome to everyone who is watching the Written Melanin channel. Wherever this day may have found you, I'm so glad that you are here. My name is Chelsea and I write books about black girls who aren't all that nice. And today, you guys, we have a very interesting topic that literally, at least for me, just like happened in real time, like this morning. So yeah, and I feel like obviously y'all have been on this channel, so y'all understand who I am at this point. But I also feel like this is a topic of discussion that never gets old and that needs to be had on a regular basis. So that being said, before we get too far into things, I want to say hello, good morning. Shout out to Ben, who is the first one in the chat. Ash is here. Darian is here. Vina is here. Hello, good morning. I hope you guys are doing well. If you're here and you're not in the chat, that's fine. I hope you guys are doing great too. Also, because of the topic, I felt like it was only appropriate that I tell you guys about some merch that if you've been to the Melanin Library shop, you've probably seen it already. But yeah, we've got this nice little, support black authors hoodie. Well, technically it's a zip up jacket, but just in case you need reminding or need to remind the people around you to support black authors, get it on a hoodie, get it on a jacket. Also, it'll support the Melanin Library, and we're always about that, right? Right. So that being said, La is here. Hello. Welcome, love. Welcome, welcome. Oh, speaking of, I need to give you guys the link to this other thing. Where am I going to put this? I'll put it under the book of the week in the description box. Nope, that is not the right link. Hold on. Y'all know I can't do two things at one time. Here we go. There we go. Okay, so if you refresh this page, you'll see that we now have some new merch on the shop. I have been waiting for a good moment to share this, because if you're in the after chat, if you're in the Discord, then you knew about it already. You had seen it, but now you can actually get it. It exists now. So ha ha ha. And if you can't read it because it's backwards, the mug says "Black like my books," and I just feel like that's appropriate, especially given today's topic. But that being said, you guys, I'm not going to sit here and ramble, especially since you guys were here on time, unlike me. Also, T.A. Summers is here. Good morning. Welcome, love. As y'all can see, the book for the day, the Melanin Spotlight, is The Heaven and Earth Grocery Store by James McBride. And I actually picked this book up recently, so I should have pulled an Audra. I should have brought the physical book. Ben, if you're watching this, can you go into the guest room and bring me the physical copy of the book? I feel like this is a missed opportunity. But I actually have the physical copy of this book, you guys. I think most of you guys know this, likely if you follow me on social media, but last Monday was my birthday. So not yesterday, but last Monday was my birthday. So Ben took me out to go shopping and stuff, and we just went to a bookstore because I am a very, very typical author. But this book sounded kind of good. I remember seeing it on TikTok. Look at me. Bam! Doing an Audra. Got the physical book. But now I saw the book on TikTok and it looked really interesting. So I went ahead and picked it up. I have not started it yet, but come to find out, my mom also picked up a copy of the book and she also enjoyed it. So now I'm like, okay. So we're going to see what it's all about. But that being said, the description from the book reads, From James McBride, author of the best-selling Oprah's Book Club pick Deacon King Kong and the National Book Award-winning The Good Lord Bird, a novel about small-town secrets and the people who keep them. In 1972, when workers in Pottstown, Pennsylvania were digging the foundations for a new development, the last thing they expected to find was a skeleton at the bottom of a well. Who the skeleton was and how it got there were two of the long-held secrets kept by the residents of Chicken Hill, the dilapidated neighborhood where immigrant Jews and African Americans lived side by side and shared ambitions and sorrows. Chicken Hill was where Mosh and Chona Lutlow, I don't know if I'm saying those names right, I'm doing my best here, Chicken Hill was where Mosh and Chona Lutlow lived when Mosh integrated his theater and where Chona ran the Heaven and Earth grocery store. When the state came looking for a deaf boy to institutionalize him, it was Chona and Nate Timblin, the black janitor at Mosh's theater and the unofficial leader of the black community on Chicken Hill, who worked together to keep the boy safe. As these character stories overlap and deepen, it becomes clear how much the people who live on the margins of white Christian America struggle and what they must do to survive. When the truth is finally revealed about what happened on Chicken Hill and the part the town's white establishment played in it, McBride shows us that even in dark times, it is love and community, heaven and earth that sustains us. So I stumbled all the way through that description, but it did seem pretty interesting. And when I was reading it in the store, like the first couple pages, it did seem kind of interesting. So, of course, if you want it, there's a link down the description box below. Disclaimer that it obviously is an affiliate link, so do with that information what you will. But that being said, you guys, also, a reminder that if you haven't already, please go ahead and pre-order Magic in the Melanin, the Black Fantasy Anthology that we are organizing. It is coming out February 18th of next year, and y'all, it's coming together. It's a beautiful project. It is coming together amazingly, and I promise you are going to want to read it. But that slight plug aside, there are things that need to be discussed, right? So, obviously, y'all can see the title of this video, and I don't even know where to begin with this, right? So if you go down to the relevant links, there's a thread there from an author, and basically to sum it up, right? The post of the author is basically talking about how they don't want their books labeled as BIPOC books. They only want it labeled as like an enemies to lovers, or they want it, labeled by its tropes and like mixed in with everything else and not separated, and people recognizing it or like only recommending it, right? As like, oh, it's this like Indian book, or it's an Indian romance, or like it's a BIPOC book, right? They're like, it's just a romance, like the normalization of it, if you will, right? And on one hand, I fully get what this author is saying, right? They're like, hey, I want my books included in discussions all the time, not just when BIPOC authors come up, right? And I say BIPOC in this case because the author is South Asian, I believe she said on her profile. So, because y'all know me, if an author is black, I'm going to say black, but they specifically said BIPOC. So that's what I'm rocking with. But it brought up this conversation where it's just kind of like, there's this idea that the correct way is to be mixed in with everyone else. And I feel like there's always going to be this nuance and this disconnect with the conversation, because it's kind of like, yes, you want to be mixed in. Yes, you want to be included in the conversation. Yes, you want to be normalized, essentially, right? But I feel like that also glosses over the reality that if you are not labeled, essentially, right? If it's not like, hey, this is a black romance, or hey, this is a BIPOC romance, or hey, this is a, insert whatever marginalized identity you would like, story, it becomes exponentially harder for the community and the peoples that you are trying to reach to find your book. And I find it interesting because as someone who has organized the Melanin Library and who has intentionally sought out Black authors in order to support them and everything else, it's very interesting to see that there are authors who are very much like, yeah, no, I don't want to be separated. It's hurting me more so than anything else. And I'm just kind of like, there's a reason why we have to be separated. But then the conversation kind of changed. And the reason the title of the Melanin Chat for this week is what it is because one of the comments responded basically saying exactly that. Like, basically saying that the author was right, that BIPOC authors should only be mixed in with the other white authors because no new readers are going to the BIPOC section to buy a novel. That's what they said, basically verbatim. No new readers are going to the BIPOC section to buy novels. And if y'all know me at all, y'all have been on this channel, this is not your first time here. If it is, welcome. But if this is not your first time here, you know that this rubbed me all types of the wrong way. Because what do you mean? Like, are you implying that, you know, Black, Indigenous people of color do not read? Are you implying that people are not going to go to the section that is clearly marketed towards them to go find a book? Like, what are you implying? And it's this whole idea of like, it's this whole idea of, if you are non-melanated, you are the center of the universe and everything must revolve around you. And it's so absolutely buck wild to me that it's like people really are like, yeah, I'm not going out of my way. And it's the fact that it implies that if you are not the target demographic, if you're not Black, Indigenous person of color, right, you're not going to that section. And it's just like, that is the problem, not the fact that our books are not mixed in with everyone else. That was never the problem. The problem is that even if we are mixed in with everyone else, even if we are found by non-melanated readers, those same readers are not going to pick up the book and read it and enjoy it and rave about it. That is the issue. The issue is centering whiteness. The issue is internalized racism. The issue is not visibility. And that's not to say that visibility isn't an issue, especially with trap publishing. We've talked a lot about it on this channel, right? And I've had authors who have come on and have talked about it. And if you're on any type of Black author space on the internet, there are plenty of authors who are vocal about how they don't have the marketing dollars for their books because they are Black authors, right? And they're not the Black author. They're not the top selling one. They're not, for lack of a better term, and there's no shade, but they're not like the N.K. Jemisin or the Tracy Dion of their imprint, right? So they don't have all of these marketing dollars behind them. They've talked very vocally about this. So it's not to say that there isn't more room for money to go into it, and visibility to, you know, isn't a factor. I'm not dismissing that, but I also think it's a very naive take to say that, oh, the reason a BIPOC book is not doing well is because of visibility, is because of where it's placed. Because as so many people pointed out, and I'm going to take a second here to plug Vina's video because she did a whole video talking about this, right? And going through some of the comments where some people put it very clearly and succinctly. So it's down in the description box in the relevant links if you guys want to check it out, what she said. But it's the reality that in a lot of ways, having your books in a separate section somewhat kind of protects you, because it ensures that the people who are looking for you can find you. And it's just kind of like, let's be real here. Becky, Brenda, Susan, Sarah, they're not looking to read a Black romance, right? And if they do read it by accident because it's mixed in with the other books and there's not a Black person on the cover and they get into it, they're likely to leave a review and say they didn't get it, they didn't understand. And that's just from like lived experience. Like, we've seen that happen in real time on Goodreads, where books that are objectively good get bad ratings from people outside of the culture simply because the person reading it was like, I didn't get it, I didn't understand, I couldn't connect with it. Like, there's a reason for it. And so I feel like that opens the door for a much bigger conversation of like, okay, so if internalized racism is a thing, right? This is a fact of life. And as a Black author, we also want our books to be seen and found by the people that we want. Is it still a bad thing to have our books clearly labeled and have sections in bookstores that are clearly labeled? Like, this is, Black romance, this is, African American fiction, this is, Asian American or Pacific Islander fiction, whatever you want to call it. Like, I feel like there has to be conversations about this, because I feel like there's so much like, I want to live in this world where these facts are not true going around on the internet, where it's just like, yes, it would be great if all authors were treated equally. That would be fantastic. However, that is not the reality we live in, at least not in 2024. So it's just like, where do we go from here? And I feel like that would be more of a discussion rather than just saying, I don't want my books labeled as BIPOC. I feel like that's just such a weird take to have, you know? But getting off my ramble, my soapbox for just a moment. Shout out to Tanja K. Johnson, who is here. Welcome, love. I'm so glad that you could make it. And Darian said, nothing is stopping people from picking up your BIPOC novel mixed in with whiteness and sitting it right back on the shelf. That part, and it happens, I feel like that happens a lot. And I feel like people assume that, people just need to get in front of it. But I posted about this on Threads as well. So if you follow me and you want to go like look at it, that's fine. I think the original post that kind of sparked this whole discussion, for me at least, has been deleted. But there are screenshots in the after chat. So slight plug. $5 gets you in. You can sign up by joining the channel as a member, or you can sign up for the Patreon. Either way, get into it. But the idea that someone isn't going to do exactly what Darian said, like, okay, they found it, and then what? But there was a librarian. I was getting on me for the way I said. Anyway, there's a librarian on my page, and she commented talking about how, you know, she's put in a lot of work and effort to diversify the library where she's at, right? And to get more Black, Indigenous, people of color, get more authors in there. And it's just like, from the catalog, yeah, it's very diverse, but from what's being checked out, it's not. And she was like, yeah, there are a specific group of patrons that she knows that, okay, she can like push the boundaries a little bit. They'll try something new, but the vast majority of people who come in won't even give it a try. And it's just like, think about that for a second. Here you have a librarian who is actively acquiring books by marginalized people telling their stories and is actively pushing to put them in readers' hands, and they are still not reading them. And it's just like, at that point, you have to say that this is not a matter of visibility. This is not a matter of awareness. This is not a matter of, oh, they just don't know about my books. If my book had been in this section instead of the BIPOC section, then Susie, Becky, Virginia would have found it and loved it, right? And it's just kind of like, that's not necessarily true. That's not necessarily true. You know? And it's just kind of like, as a Black author, it's kind of like, it also brings up the question of like, who are you writing for though? Like, if you don't want, because and here's the thing, a lot of people who saw this responded like, I don't know who's we, but I definitely go to the BIPOC section because that's what I am looking for. And it's just like, yeah, as a Black person, I look for the Black section in a bookstore to go buy Black books. Like, that is the thing. And it was so interesting because so many people were like, yeah, I actually do go to the section. Like, I bypass all the other books. I skip the book talk table because I know that there's absolutely nothing on that table for me. I skip the what's popular table because I know that there's absolutely nothing on that table for me. I have the, if you liked this, then you'll like this table because again, nothing on that table for me. And I go straight to the back, unfortunately, because it's in the back, go to the back where there is a Black romance or African-American fiction section or whatever they want to call it for that store. And that's where I start looking. Right. And it's just kind of like, that's the reality for a lot of us. And it was so crazy because the person who responded to me was like, oh, well, what does racism not go the other way? Is it only one way? What about all of the people of color who are like, they don't read white books? And I was like, okay, well, have you met a person of color who has had the privilege to not read a book by a white person? Like, if you read, you have read a book by a white person. That's just what it is. And it's not shade. It's just the reality that we live in. Like, everybody has read a book by a white person. Everyone has not read a book by a Black woman. So it's just kind of like, you can't equate those two things and be like, oh, well, this Black person is very vocal about reading Black books. I can almost guarantee you, if they are like 25 or above, they spent their entire childhood reading books with people who don't look anything like them. So if they never read another book by a white person again, they have already done the assignment. They did it before they showed up for class. I'm so sorry you're late to school. Like, it's just, the implication is crazy. It's crazy. But even then, you guys, what always blows me about that conversation, right, is the fact that, okay, so you read nothing but white authors, with the exception of like February, well, you'll pick up like 2 Black authors, maybe not finish them, definitely won't talk about them, right? And you're picking up like Toni Morrison, or you're picking up N.K. Jemisin, or you're picking up Tracy Dion. No shade to them, but they're super popular, so it's not like you're doing research. It's not like you're uplifting new authors. It's not like you're spreading awareness. And I'm talking about people who have platforms, right? I'm not even talking about the average reader. I'm just talking about the regular person who has a platform, a bookish platform on the internet, right? It's like, you're 365 days out the year, you read nothing but white authors, except for like February, you'll pick up a Black author. And then maybe for, you know, Hispanic Heritage Month, you'll pick up another book by a person of color. And for any other months or awareness weeks or anything else, you'll pick up an author from someone else. But that's like a week altogether. If you take all of those together, that's what, like 2, maybe 3 months out of the year. So the rest of the year, you're not reading anything by people of color. And somehow that's equivalent to people of color reading nothing but white authors until they're old enough to do research on their own. And then even still old enough to acquire books on their own. Like, those two things are not equivalent. You can't just say like, oh, it's the same. It's not. It's really, really not. And the fact that, the thing is that I find interesting is that even Black authors who read nothing, Black readers who read nothing but Black authors, they still advertise for reading diversely. Like, they are still reading, they'll still read white authors occasionally, just mixed in because the book is good or they heard it's good, right? And it's just like, it doesn't go both ways. So the argument is always like, I don't know, I'm like, it's weird to me. It's very, very, very weird, right? Because I know that I'm like, oh, read Black authors, right? That's my whole shtick. That's my whole brand, right? But at the same time, y'all, if you're in the after chat, y'all know that I also still read books by non-Black authors from time to time. So it's kind of like, it's weird. It's weird. It's very weird. It's strange. But yeah, T.A. Summer said, I'm glad that there are spaces in my indie bookstores locally that highlight BIPOC authors. Same with displays in my library. They make it a point to say, hey, look, and personalized recommendations. And I feel like that's the thing. And what's interesting is that, like, people will complain or whatever, but it's just like, if they had displays, right, how many people would actually stop, right? Because so many people argue that it's just like, oh, well, they're so hard to find. If they were easier to find, I would do this thing. And it's just like, even if they were at the front of the store, and you had a librarian telling you, hey, this book just came in, it's great, the author of the book could be sitting at a table right there and be like, hey, here's a free copy of my book. And there's still people who would not read it. So it's kind of like the people who argue this, like, oh, it's so hard to find. It's like, you're not looking. You're not looking. Because I guarantee you that Monster Smut that you have that put hidden away when your mom comes to your house was not on the front table at a Barnes & Noble. It just wasn't. So it's just like, you find what you are looking to find. So it's that. And then the conversation that was also like, in the comments, she was also like, I don't read books based off of the character's race. And I'm like, and she's like, are you saying that I should be doing that? I'm like, yes, you absolutely should. You should absolutely be reading books based off of the author's race. You should absolutely be doing research, because hear me out, follow the logic here. You can't diversify your reading if you don't know if the authors you're reading are diverse. Like, it's knowledge. And I feel like the issue around so many things is people try to weaponize race when it's just like, no, you need to be aware of it and your internal biases. Like, it's fine. It's fine if you are aware that the author you're reading is Asian or Black or Hispanic or Native American, not Native American, is indigenous or what have you, wherever they're from, there's nothing wrong with you being aware of that and picking up a book and being like, this is outside of my lived experience. I'm picking it up because it is outside of my lived experience. Like, what? Why is that weird? Why is that a radical thought? Like, books, what is it? Books should be mirrors and windows. And a lot of people have way too many mirrors in their house. Like, get some windows, babe. It's fine. It's fine if you are not the center of every story. And it's weird if you feel like you can't read a story that you're not the center of. Like, it's not it's so crazy because my mom says this to me a lot, but it's like, it's not about you. It's not about you. And it's fine. Like, learn to live in a world that is not all about you. But yeah. I can rant about this for a good while. Also, Relove listeners here. Good morning. Good morning. Deja is here too. Deja is here too. I'm lucky to live in a place that have people that do that despite some of the local censorship. Censorship is crazy. Like, I don't even know where this world is going with all the book censorship that's happening, because it's just kind of like, but the thing is, I feel like the reason for the censorship, because we'll all say like, why are they doing this? But it's just like, if you pay attention to the election, I swear I'm not getting political, right? But if you pay attention to the 2024 election, the reason why they are trying to ban books is because they want people who are going to be more aligned with with the other side, right? And if you are paying attention, you know what I mean. They want people who are aligned with that, because the first thing that any oppressor does is they burn the books. They take away the education of the people, because it's a lot easier to control people who are ignorant and are unaware of the world outside of their experience. You could tell them whatever you want to tell them and they will believe it and they will follow you, and they will be like sheep. They will not be able to think for themselves. They will follow the leader, and that is essentially what they want. And they don't want an empathetic population. They don't want a population of people who see each other as humans, as see each other as we can band together to make changes. They don't want that. They want a divided people, because literally, united we stand, divided we fall. They want a divided people. It's a lot easier to control people that way. But I digress. The point is, censorship is definitely going to become a thing in the coming years. It's already a huge thing, but like for the coming generation, it's going to be wild to see, because so many of the books that we grew up on that were like fine and people have been sharing for decades are now like, oh, we need to question it. Because I saw an article somewhere, I can't find it. I probably won't be able to find it because it was on Twitter, but basically it was like, a library has decided that they're just not going to acquire any books for young adults going forward, simply because of all of the restrictions and censorship that is happening, and that they would be held liable if there's anything in a book that could be even remotely considered inappropriate. And they were just like, yeah, so we're just not going to do it anymore. We're just not going to do it. And it's just like, think about that. Imagine you're going to have entire generations. And it's kind of crazy, because as an author, it's just like, I can't imagine not having an audience for the books that I write, because it's like, sure, I write adult books, but I definitely write books that are like on the cusp of adult, like new adult, if you will. Right. So it's just kind of like, yeah, there's going to be a whole generation of kids who are not going to enjoy reading, who are not going to want to read, who are not going to be into reading. It's going to become a very, I don't know, what was the word I'm looking for? It's going to become very elitist, as a kind of like how it was back in the day, where only if you were very like rich and privileged were you able to read and enjoy it. Because when you censor things that heavily and it's not widely available, and you can't just go to a library, you're literally saying, hey, if you cannot afford to go out and buy a $40 book, then you are not allowed to read. And that is crazy. And when you have that kind of hurdle, especially in a declining economy, it's like you're literally telling people that you don't want them to read. You're literally banning it in the most basic, you're banning it without saying you're banning it, you know? And it's just like, that's crazy. That's wild. And the fact that like T.A. Summer said, they read the autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman in the 7th grade, and that would have been banned by today's standard. Yeah, all of the books, like, let's be real here. Pretty much every book that we read in high school, at least for me, would be banned at this point, because it talks about things that would make, and this is, again, no shade to anyone, but like, realistically speaking, the people making the rules, cisgendered white men and women uncomfortable because they don't want their children to read it. And I remember reading, what is that book called? It was Black Like Me. It follows the story of a white man in like the Jim Crow era who basically darkens his skin, and he goes to the South, and he's experiencing racism for the first time because he didn't think it was real. He didn't think it was true. He was like, it can't be that bad. And then he's wrote a book talking about it, right? And it's just like, it was an interesting perspective as a Black student at a very Black school with Black teachers to be discussing what it would be like for someone to experience racism for the first time as an adult. It was a very interesting conversation. But it's just like, I can't imagine that would be allowed to be taught in schools at this point, you know? Even any of the books that I read, The Other West Moore, A Raisin in the Sun, like, all of those, Their Eyes Were Watching God, all of the books that I read would be like, yeah, no, because they're written by Black authors and they feature Black people. And anything that's not strictly straight and white is being banned and censored heavily in schools and education systems, to the point where teachers don't even have classroom libraries anymore. And it's just like, having been a teacher, not having a classroom library is wild. Like, just absolutely wild. Absolutely wild. Because it's just like, when kids are young, they have like this thirst for knowledge. And it's just like, they're really stifling that because their kids are becoming empathetic and looking at them and being like, why are you not a nice person? And they really don't like that. They really don't like that. And it's crazy. It's crazy. Going back through some of the comments, let's see here. We could have a whole discussion about what people are reading too, because let me just say, there's a lot of folks vocal about not reading critically. Look, one of my biggest issues, right, and we've talked about this in the chat, and I can talk about it a little bit here on the public live, but one of my biggest issues with books in this current day and age is that they do not engage your brain. They do not require your synapses to be firing as you read. And I just feel like that's such a disappointment as like a reader, because it's like, I want to enjoy these books. I want to get into them. But it's just like, there are so many people who have lost the ability to think critically, to really pay attention to what they're reading. And there's a skill called metacognition, right? And metacognition is basically just being able to think about your thinking, right? It is a taught skill. I know because it was on the curriculum for second graders. You have to teach them how to think about their thinking, right? But I feel like so many people are missing out on that skill, and then they are getting older and they're reading books, and things have to be so simplified and so straightforward, and everything is, for lack of a better term, it feels like very Dora the Explorer-ish, right? It feels very like, I'm going to ask you a question and then I'm going to give you like a chapter to think about it, and then I'm going to tell you very explicitly what the answer is and where all the clues were. And it's just like, it doesn't require you to think. It doesn't require you to pay attention. It doesn't require you to actually engage with the text. It doesn't require you to pay attention to the subtleties. And it's just kind of like, I miss that. I miss being able to have discussions, like real discussions about books. And it's just kind of like, when did we get here? Why did we get here? To the point where it's like, if a book is not in first person, there are people who are like, I cannot understand what's happening because it's not me, it's third person. Like, wow, release yourself from the center of the universe. I promise you it's better out here with the rest of us. But it's crazy. It's crazy. And it's part of the reason why I don't, it's part of the reason why at this point in my life, I am moving away from young adult very heavily. And when I say moving away, I'm like cold turkey. I don't want to see another young adult book in front of me for a good little while. Especially if it's fantasy, mostly because I feel like everything that I have been getting lately has been cotton candy. It has a really pretty look. It smells sweet. It looks nice, but then you get into it and it's just empty. Like there's no substance whatsoever. And it's just like, this is what they're feeding the children? Like what is supposed to nourish them? What is supposed to hold them? What is supposed to feed them? And I also feel like there's this push of like books that are like recreating this fad, this phase, this obsession from the early 2000s. And I don't know, I was there in the early 2000s. I don't want to relive it. Like, I don't know, babes. We had a good time. We moved on. And I'm also not into that. So I just feel like personally, there's nothing in YA fantasy for me, even though there's this push for like, oh, there's a black girl, there's a black girl, there's a black girl. And is the black girl acting black? And I know that's such what is the word? What's the phrase I'm looking for? That's such a hot topic. I don't know, like the turn of phrase is very divisive, but I'm also like, yeah, does she have black friends? Does she have a black mom? Is she around other black people? Like, I don't know. There are ways to include black culture without being overt or preachy, or this is, and very explanatory. I don't know. Words are not wording for me this morning, you guys, but y'all get what I'm saying. I'm tired. I'm so tired of being like, oh, this looks so good, I want to get into it. And then and I read slow, right? So before I even really get into it, someone's like, oh, by the way, the palm colored person did this, and this in the book. And I'm like, are you for real? Are you so serious right now? I didn't even have a chance to, okay. Well, guess this one's going back to the store. And it's not to say that I don't want to read books with white people in it. I just don't want to read books where whiteness is constantly centered. And the book is supposed to be marketed towards me, a black woman who was a black girl, a black teenager, you know? It's like, I don't know, man. I feel like the point is like right here in the center and everybody else is all over the place. Like we were nowhere near the point, you know? But then it's always, this was the book of my heart. I love this book so much. I love these characters. Do you? Do you? I don't know. Maybe we need therapy, babes. Maybe. Going back to some of these questions. Oh, JK is here. Hello. Welcome, love. Hope you are doing well. Let's see here. Question regarding banned books. Do you think it's on the teachers to introduce banned books in schools or the faculty members? Curious about your opinions. I think that's a very nuanced question. I think I would recommend... also, Benjamin, if you're listening to this, the dude for the tree just got here. Just so you know, he's outside. Back to the point. I think when it comes to banned books, I think it's important that teachers be prepared to talk about banned books. I don't know if it's necessarily their job to introduce them. But I do think it is their job to be prepared to talk about them, answer questions, and encourage their students to dig deeper and think critically. I think schools are going to have to become a place of revolution. I think there are going to have to be a lot more teachers who are going to, I don't know if say like have an underground book ring, but like really like they're going to have to continue to push for thought and education, like the real teachers. I'm not talking about the teachers who were there for a public service job for like 3 to 5 years so they can get their student loans forgiven. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the teachers who are passionate about children and learning. I think they're going to really have to come together and figure out a way to make sure that the babies are not dumb. Like, honestly, because the reality of it is, and I know that this is going to be like controversial, but the reason why so many things are like this is because a lot of the parental units, the guardians of these children, are not educated in the ways that they need to be, and they don't know how to foster these things for their children. And when somebody who is supposed to be an authority figure tells them it's bad, they lack the critical thinking to challenge it for themselves. And so they just go along with it and they tell their children no. And I think that is a very bad thing. So I think banned books, first of all, I don't think books should be banned. I don't think books should be banned unless it is actively encouraging hate speech, in which case, yes, right? But I don't, the things that are being banned are things that are simply any identity that strays from the norm and basically forcing people to deviate from those ideas and it's the idea that it's just like, hey, if you love, let's say you love, I don't know what, tomatoes, right? You love tomatoes. You put them in everything. You put them in your salad. You eat them raw. You eat tomato sandwiches. You like every type of ketchup and pasta available. You love tomatoes in every shape, way, form, and fashion, right? You've always loved tomatoes. If I take away all your books on how to grow tomatoes, if I tell you that tomatoes aren't good for you, right? And if I tell you that tomatoes are killing you and your children, and I tell you that tomatoes, it doesn't matter what I tell you, you're still going to be like, well, that's not true. I love tomatoes. Tomatoes are fine. Well, where's all of this coming from? And you're still going to like tomatoes. You're still going to be a tomato lover. I feel like insert tomatoes with any personality trait that is not straight and white, and it's not a personality trait, that's the wrong word, but any trait, right? Identifying trait that is not straight, white, and male, and that is how they are treating books. Like, if I take these books away from you, if I tell you that it's bad, if I tell you that it's killing you and your children, if I tell you all these things, then you'll believe it. And it's just like, well, no, just because you tell someone that they're not queer and you take away all the queer books, that doesn't make them any less queer. That just means that you've just now taken away all of their resources for dealing with that and growing into a like functioning human being in society. Congratulations. You've emotionally and mentally crippled someone because of your own biases. Like, I don't know. Again, I feel like we should take that to therapy versus taking it out on an entire population of people, you know? That was a soapbox, but yeah. But yeah. I love when I can read a book and then have a good convo with someone discussing what happened. That part, I've been to so many book discussions where people don't know what happens in a book, and it's just like, why do we even bother reading it together? I'm so confused. That's part of the reason why I don't do buddy reads. It's part of the reason why I don't do buddy reads. It's just like, you don't know what happened in the book, bruh. You know? Let's see here. A King is here. Hello. Welcome, love. Hope you're doing well. How many times do you reread a book? It depends on the book. I'm one of those people, I read really slow. So once I read a book, it kind of lives in my head forever, whether I want it to or not, which is why I'm so picky about what I read. But if a book is really good and I like have it, I will reread it multiple times, like whenever I feel like going back to it. The thing is with me and rereading books, I usually skip like the first 10% of the book. I usually jump straight to after the inciting incident and then read to the end. That's just how my brain is set up because I usually remember how we got here. So it's just kind of like, I know this is crazy and this is such a weird analogy, but this is the best one that I've got because I read it so many times as a teenager. But like for Twilight, I usually would skip straight to the third book and just reread that one. Mostly because I hated the second book with like a passion because I was like, girl, you're crazy. You're insane. But I usually skip straight to the third book because I was like, that's where things picked up there. That's where things started happening. And in a series with 4 books, that's usually right around that same point anyway. But yeah, I don't know if that answers the question, but that's my response. Let's see here. Ash said, based on how badly they censor, whitewash, etc. Black history, I think it's best to teach the kids ourselves. There's slavery today in the 13th Amendment, so why would they properly teach about the past? Yeah, that's what the other side wants if they win the election. They very specifically said that they want to defund the Department of Education and that they are going to actively like make it illegal to teach Black history or Indigenous history or that slavery was bad. And if y'all saw some of the picture books that they have in Florida, they made it seem like Black people were just having a picnic and like they had like well-dressed clothes and hats and stuff and they were like chilling under the tree and they just did work because they wanted to. It's crazy. It's crazy. Cherry Reese is here. Hello, love. Welcome. There are teachers who have been harassed and fired for doing this, unfortunately. Yeah. And that's the thing. Schools are being kneecapped, handicapped, crazy. It makes me glad that I'm not a teacher anymore because the way that I definitely wouldn't have made it because it's like the babies already don't read, y'all. Like they already don't read. So to like make it even harder is crazy. Oh, also, if you're coming in, get a Black Light My Books mug. It's available on the Melanin Library shop. Whew. Let's see here. Deja said most debuts this year have been disappointing. You know what? I would even say most debuts since like 2018, but that's just a personal opinion. T.A. Summer said, I'm trying so hard to write several YA urban fantasy books to get picked up with Black folks. And reaching your target audience is hard. Hard. So, and that's the other thing that I found so interesting about the whole conversation about like not want to be labeled. It's just like, it's hard enough to find your audience as it is, but on top of that, you want to handicap yourself. On top of that, you don't want to tell people like who you are, because let me tell you, I have definitely been at a point where I'm like, if I don't know that you are Black, I'm not reading your book. Like, I don't, especially if you tell me that there are Black characters in the book, I need to know that I'm reading representation and not some fabricated idea of what you think Blackness is. That is just me, right? And that's because I will live and die on the hill that you should write the representation that you represent. That's where I'm at. That's where I live. I feel like if you are a Black author, you should write Black characters. I feel like if you're an Indigenous author, you should write Indigenous characters. I feel like if you're an Asian author or Hispanic author, I feel like you should write Asian or Hispanic characters. I just find it very weird that people argue to be representation for groups that they are not a part of. That's just weird to me. However, I know that everyone does not agree with me in that. But because of that, I'm very much like, are you Black? Oh, you one of us. Like, I need to know that. I need to know that before I get into a book. And the thing is, I'm fine reading authors who are not Black, but I'm also like, I don't want to read Black characters written by a non-Black author. That's where I personally draw the line. Like, I'm just not interested. No, thank you. Same way I'm not going to read an interracial romance with, I'm just not going to, you know what? I was going to give like qualifiers. But I'm not going to read. I'm really not into interracial romance. The only one that I have read in recent history and enjoyed was Kimberly Lemmings. And even then, it was an Asian male lead. It was not the typical, it wasn't the typical interracial romance. So, and I have not read the second book in her Meet Mishap series for that reason. I'm just not interested. Love Kim though. So slight plug for her books. Her Aliens book. I got kidnapped by an alien and trapped in a rom-com, something like that. Anyway, that's coming out February 18th as well. So like, just go ahead and get both of our books. Got distracted. Let's see here. There are too many YA writers these days writing for the teen they were 15 years ago, not the teen today. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? I feel like the issue is like, they weren't even fun people as teenagers, which means their books are not fun either. There, I said it. The books are boring. Oh my God. Can we just admit that? I feel like we need, and I was actually going to label this episode of the Melanin Chat. I was going to be like, I was going to say like YA needs a renaissance. And I feel like we really need a renaissance in books. I really do. I feel like whatever we're doing now, we need to stop and do something different because it's not working. I just feel like there should be no reason why every book is just like you have to make concessions for it in order to enjoy it. Yeah, it's like it's good, but it's good. However, it's good, asterisk and have some type of explanation elsewhere. I don't know. I want to move away from comping books to other books so heavily that you completely lose the plot. I want to move away from authors not being able to tell me what their books are about unless they tell me like 6 tropes in a sentence. I want to move away from repeating the same ideas over and over and over and over and over again. I want to move away from this idea that fantasy and fun and adventure can only look one way. I would like to move away from putting teenagers in such adult situations, but then having them act like they're not mature enough for those situations. Like, why are they here? I would like to move back to when teenagers were like in high school and they had parents and their biggest issue was who are they taking to prom. I want to go back to fun. And it's just like, I'm kind of there has not been a popular book that has come out in this year or last year that I was just like, yo, I need to get this book. I need to get this book. I need to read it. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to love it. I am going to love it. I know this. Because it's just like when I find out the synopsis, I'm just kind of like, oh, word? Like, okay. I'm not interested in boarding schools. I'm not interested in vampires. And it's not that I'm not interested in those things. I'm not interested in them in the way that they are told in traditional publishing. I am not interested. I do not give a flying flip about a love triangle. I really don't, especially with teenagers, because I'm like, girl, you're 16. Pick one of them and move on. It's not that serious. You're not in love. This is not high society, okay? This is not the 1800s where whichever boy you pick, you're going to have to marry and be stuck with for the rest of your life. I'm tired of the cliche. I'm stuck between the two of them. I'm also tired of these girls not having friends. I'm tired of them not having people call them out on their nonsense. Like, there's just so much about these books that I just don't like. I'm hard pressed to find things that I do, you know? Like, and also I'm tired of these girls being like loners, specifically like loners who have no friends. Where are the popular girls? Where are the girls who have friends and cliques, who have like an image to maintain, who get up early to get their makeup done, and they're actually like genuinely nice people? What is her name? Like the girl from Clueless, right? She was popular, but she was also decent and like got her friend like dressed up and stuff. And it's just like, where's just the regular drama? I said this before and I'll say it again, but it's just like, I want more books like Sarah Dessen and John Green, but Black, right? That's what I would like at this point in time, right? Just give me something more than angst. Give me more than a Black girl with curly hair who has a hair routine and is stuck between two love interests, one who is incredibly rude and dismissive to her, who in real life would actually absolutely get punched in the throat by an older brother, and some guy who's incredibly too nice and obsessed with her, but obviously she doesn't like him because he's too nice and obsessed with her. But then, oh, come to find out he's actually the one that she should be with, but she's going to be with you see where I'm going with this? And I just described to you like 3 books at the same time. I'm sick of it. I'm tired of it. I don't want to read it anymore. I don't want to read it anymore. Let's see. Your Scout is here. Hello, welcome. I hope you're doing well. Let's see. They said, I'm a Black Canadian author. My experience is different. If a Black author's experience differs widely from what you recognize, how would you respond to it? And see, I feel like that's a good question. But the thing is, it's not so much about my experience or whatever. It's just the fact that when you read a book, you can tell when someone is writing from their lived experience versus leaning into stereotypes of something that somebody else has told them. And there are subtle things just from the way a character interacts with their world, right? It's just like, I don't want to say you can't make those things up, but it's just kind of like, I am a firm believer that you cannot sensitivity read your way into understanding a person's entire culture. And I feel like you can include characters and be respectful of other cultures and inclusive of other cultures without being representation for other cultures, you know? And it's just kind of like, if your experience is different from mine, right? Like, I would expect it to be different, right? You're Canadian, right? But even in America, I live on the East Coast. West Coast African American experience is completely different, you know? It's just kind of like, as long as it's authentic. And I feel like that's the thing when it comes to conversations like this. It's like, readers know when stories are not authentic, right? And it's just like, I don't know. As an author myself, my question becomes, it's just like, why would anybody want to write stories that are inauthentic? You know, why write stories that you exclude yourself from the representation? It goes straight over my head. I don't know. Like, I'm always going to write books about Black girls and Black women because that is my lived experience and that is the representation I want to see on the page. So that is the representation I'm going to write. I'm a part of that group of people, so I can write about that group of people, right? And not saying that every person or every experience is going to look exactly like mine, but it's just like, there's a good chance that some of them are, you know? I don't know if that answered your question or not. I'm sorry if it didn't. They weren't even reading diversely 10 years ago. They're still pining over the most cliche books. I don't want a disclaimer for why a book is a way. Let the book be good with certain tropes. That part. They're the chosen one, but ain't asking the highly powerful adult in their life. Where is the mentor figure? Where is the mentor figure in these books? Because I'm just kind of like, I want to see them. I want to see guidance. I want to see questions. I want to see people that they look up to. I'm really tired of these children being in books with no guidance. Let's see here. Not a single popular book was worth reading in the past recent years. You know, the books that I love, I tell y'all about. Let me just put it that way. The books that I love, I don't shut up about. So there's that. There's that. Let's see here. Teens eat up relationship drama. I mean, I get that there's relationship drama, but I also feel like there's a difference between drama versus, oh, it's a love triangle. Because, like, let's be real here. I know that I'm probably talking myself into a hole right now, but like, I never watched the Vampire Diaries. I read the books, right? And the thing is, even that whole thing with the brothers, it's like she dated one and then she dated the other. It wasn't like she was stuck between them both at the beginning. Like she was literally dating one and the other brother showed up. And I feel like the drama is never like, oh, I'm in a relationship with somebody else and then somebody else shows up and then I have questions. It's always like both of them show up at the same time and they're like rivals. I feel like it's very like, and this is such a weird analogy, but this is where my brain went. I feel like it's very much like Naruto and Sasuke if Sasuke was into Sakura at the same time Naruto was, right? I feel like it's giving very much that energy. Like, we are in this group together, but we hate each other, but we both like the same girl. And it's just like, this is weird. And she likes both of them equally. And it's always that. It's like, I like both of them equally. And I'm like, but you don't though. But you don't. Because there's this thing a long time ago. It's like, if you are stuck between two people, go with the second one, because if you really like the first, you wouldn't have fallen for the second one. Boom. There you go. I feel like the drama is so drawn out, and it's just kind of like, and I feel like you could only do that so many times before you get sick of it, right? It's like, you can appreciate drama in a relationship when there's also the contrast of a stable, like, normal relationship, right? I feel like if everybody's got drama, that's too much. Sometimes, and I feel like the issue for me, at least, is like, I like romance in a book, but I start feeling like it just takes over the entirety of the book. Like, where's the adventure? Where's the fun? Where's the promise of joy in this book? Like, it's always just a lot. This part, where are the mean girl heroes at? That's what I want. Because the thing is, even with Mean Girls, right? Regina George was absolutely miserable, but she still took Katie in to her clique. Like, she definitely made her one of the mean girls. And I feel like we don't get stories like that anymore. Like, everybody does not have to be a bookish girl with no friends. Like, and hello, you could be a bookish girl and have friends. Where are the bookish girls with like a book club, right? Like, where are these? Why is everybody friendless? I don't understand that. I don't get it. Like, you ain't got no clubs, you ain't got no hobbies, you're not part of the journalism club, you don't take pictures, you're not part of photography, you're not part of the writing club, you're not part of the lit club. Like, you don't go volunteer at the library, you don't read to like children on your weekends, you do absolutely nothing. You just have all this free time, but somehow what? No, but both of these boys want you? For why? Girl, I promise you, if you ain't figured out how to do your makeup because all you do is stare at a book and you don't talk to people, they don't want you that bad. They don't. Not in high school, they don't. I would like some superficialness. I would. On both sides, you know? But that's just me. Because also, like, why are you super, like, fit and slim and all you do is sit around and read books all day? Make that make sense. Anywho, that was a rant. Okay. Authentic preachy books where the black character is getting disrespected as the lone black character, or a lesson to teach palm folks to understand black people. You know what? I'm literally at a point where it's just like, if I don't see another black person in like 2 chapters, I'm putting the book down. I'm not reading this book and she's the only black character. No. Teens ain't eating up these love triangles currently, though. There's not enough drama in them, and the drama is lame. We're not right for each other because we come from two different worlds. That part. You know what? This is so crazy, and I'm gonna say this, and then I'm gonna wrap this up, right? I've been watching Yakuza Fiance, and y'all know I love anime. And and if you've been watching Yakuza Fiance, let me just tell you, episode 3, frame 1 is crazy. It's wild. Unprepared. Whatever you think is happening, I promise you it is not that, and it's way worse, but it's hilarious. Anyway, the thing that I like about Yakuza Fiance is when I tell you that man is toxic, but he's obsessed with that girl. He is toxic, but he's obsessed with that girl. Like, y'all, I want stories to go there. If there's gonna be drama, I need it to be because it's just like, hey, I killed a man for you, and it's like, I didn't ask you to do that. He's like, but I want you to love me now because I killed someone for you. She's like, I didn't ask you to do that. Like, give me drama like that. Like, moral ambiguity, right? That is drama to me. You know, give me, Ash knows exactly what I'm talking about. It was great though. It was great. But see what I mean? That's what I mean. He's toxic, but he's obsessed. And I love it. I live for it. Honestly, that to me is way more interesting. But all that being said, I feel like I said, I feel like we just need a renaissance. I feel like we need authors who are going to push the envelope. I feel like we need stories that are not going to be, oh, I am the chosen one and this supernatural being is super in love with me for reasons, but I can't be with him. So I'm going to try this other supernatural being who's also obsessed with me for reasons. However, I still cannot think about supernatural boy number 1. Bleh. I'm done. I don't want it. Keep it. Yeet it out the window. But that's just me. Let's see here. It's not a love triangle, but it is a realistic falling out of a relationship. Yeah. I mean, and I feel like there's also a very untapped market for books like, what was it? Oh, I have to look it up. There was this book that I read as a teenager that stays with me. And I want to say it was like called like Jason and Kyra or something like that. Yeah, I wasn't tripping. Is this the same person? Hold on. I think I'm having a moment, you guys. Nope. Maybe it's a different person. Not sure. Anyway. There's this book called Jason and Kyra by Dana Davidson. I read this book as like a kid, right? But that whole thing is just about like these two characters getting together. Like the drama was their relationship and the ups and downs with it. And when I say like I want Sarah Dessen type books but Black, that is what I want. Her books are literally nothing but one girl and one boy, and it's the whole up and down of them getting together through their relationship, the ups, the downs, the lefts, the rights, and like navigating high school with or what post or the summer or whatever. And it's just them being together and getting together. Like, where's that drama? Because that's the type of stuff that I ate up. Like, no, don't do it. He made a bad decision, you know? And it's just kind of like, even with like Avatar, The Last Airbender, right? It's just kind of like, people loved the relationship, but it's like you can't even say that it was a triangle between Aang, Katara, and Zuko. That's not what it was. It's just like the relationship of Aang and Katara. And it's just like Aang was always very clear, like to Katara, like, hey, I like you. I want to be with you. She's like, yo, this is weird. Like, I'm confused. And there was always an up and down with it. Like, I don't know. And then you can have drama with just two people. It doesn't always have to be a love triangle. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and I'm going to say something possibly problematic, but I'm going to say it anyway because it's my channel. I can say what I want. If your only idea of relationship drama is, oh, there's a third person, your pen is probably not as fire as you think it is. And you should probably read something outside of the young adult collection. That's my 2 cents. Because there's absolutely ways to write an interesting love story with drama that does not require a third entity. It just doesn't. It's It's not a requirement. It's not a requirement. And when everybody is doing the exact same thing, it's no longer interesting. If you're in a parade and everybody has red balloons, I no longer care about seeing a red balloon. I want to see the yellow one. The problem with the traditional publishing industry is that if you're in a parade and everybody has red balloons and then you see a yellow one, you're like, oh my God, look at that yellow balloon. Then yellow balloons just start popping up everywhere into the entire parade is just yellow balloons. And then you're like, oh my God, look, a blue balloon. And they keep doing that until you're suffocated out of the thing that you liked in the first place. Instead of being like, oh, there's a myriad, there's red balloons, there's yellow balloons, there's blue balloons, there's green ones, there's pink ones. And that way you have a myriad of colors. You see where I'm going with this? I don't know if that made any sense, but Ben is reminding me that I need to do the after chat, and I absolutely do. I went a little bit over it because I was late, so hopefully you guys appreciate that. But we are about to move on to the after chat, the chat after the chat. So if you would like to join, go ahead and join as a member to the YouTube channel, or you can join the Patreon at patreon.com/writtingthemelanin. $5 gets you in. It's the same on either platform, and both of them get you into the Discord. So do what makes you happy. Do what feeds your soul. But if you haven't already, go ahead and tap the like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notifications so you don't miss when I go live again. I will be back not next week, but the week after that. And I will probably do writing sprints at some point so I can finish up the Lady Widow. But yeah. Let's see here. T.A. Summer said, How to Lose a Best Friend is like that. Go read it. I had some issues with the pop culture references, and it drew some parts out a little long, but it was drama. Pop culture references, we are definitely going to talk about that in the after chat. But that being said, thank you guys so much for being here. Hope you guys have an amazing day. And until next time, I hope your days are lovely and your books are interesting. Bye, you guys.